where we can see your face. There you
All
go.
right. All right. Here we go. We're
Maybe
getting our
spun
camera
it back.
set. We are live and ready to go. Welcome to another episode of the Fun Fans Podcast. I'm your host, James Dillard. With me as always, my co-host, Bailey Jackson. How you doing, Bailey?
I'm good, James. Glad to have Billy Hudson with us today.
We are excited to have Mr. Hudson with us, and we're going to talk with him. We're going to do some reminiscing. We'll highlight this week's results of baseball, softball. We talk about having huge announcements. This is the huge of the huge announcements coming up at the end of the show, and we're going to give away a tumbler. But
Bigger
first,
than big.
That's right, living large. First, we want to let you know the Fun Fans are a proud part of the Fanboys Fangirls Sports Podcasting Network. If you're a true sports fan, the Fanboys Fangirls is perfect for you. Find various nationwide podcasts and other sports media at thefanboys.com and on all forms of social media. The Fun Fans Podcast is the official podcast for Clemson fans. And Bailey, what's our official place to eat?
Well, you know, James, I love Reuben's. Food, sports, spirits, and catering, the best wings around, with 2 locations in the upstate, 1083 Batesville Road in Greer, South Carolina, and 11028 Anderson Road in Piedmont, South Carolina. You can find them at ReubenC.com, which is also on your screen right now. Yeah. And it's simply a great place to eat for all sports fans, especially Clemson fans.
We love it. All right, so who do we have with us today? We have a former Clemson Tiger offensive tackle, which was my position, just by the way, not at Clemson.
I would have never guessed that.
You never would have guessed that. He was there from 1975 to 1978, and this gentleman was part of the 1978 ACC championship team. I think he's going to tell us a little bit about that. And the 1978 Gator Bowl championship team, Mr. Billy Hudson. Billy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, guys. How are y'all?
Awesome.
Yeah, we're always excited to be here. So, kind of what we always do first is tell the Clemson fans what Mr. Billy Hudson's up to these days.
Well, I moved from LaGrange, Georgia, to Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, in December of 1986, and have been here ever since. Been in the financial industry, licensed broker since February of '87. Have 2 daughters, one of which played soccer at Clemson. The other one decided not to play college soccer and go to law school. So I have 4 wonderful grandsons, and my wife has put up with me for 40 years.
Bless her heart. That's good. And at Mount Pleasant, that's a nice area.
It was really nice till all the people from Ohio found
it. They probably like the Ohio State Buckeyes too,
yeah,
which makes it
even
worse.
Well, we've beaten them so many times, we own them.
Love it. All right.
So when you were being recruited, how'd you end up at Clemson University?
Well, it's kind of a long story, but I'll make it short. My dad grew up in Graham, North Carolina, and went to Chapel Hill and boxed on the boxing team and played on the tennis team. And then this thing called World War II came along. And next thing you know, he was in Arizona training to be a B-17 pilot. So my mother wanted me to go to Chapel Hill. So, excuse me, I went on some recruiting trips to Chapel Hill and Georgia, some other places, and things didn't work out at Chapel Hill. And anyway, I was driving my school bus. We drove school buses in those days before a basketball game my senior year, and pulled up in the driveway, and there was 2 cars in front of the house. It was Bill Dooley and Vince Dooley. And they came in the living room, and my dad had passed away, and Mama was at work, and we sat down. They looked at me and said, "Well, you got to commit to one of our schools, or we're going to pull our scholarship offer." And it scared me to death. So I always loved this guy from Clemson named Clyde Wren. So I went back to my mother's bedroom and called Clemson to talk to Clyde Wren. He wasn't there, but Coach Adams, Hoss Adams, was there. He got on the phone, said, Billy, they do that all the time. Tell them you're not making a decision today, and they'll get up and leave, and you'll still have your scholarship offer. And then, being a good recruiter, he said, when are you going to commit to us? I said, well, Coach Adams, I've never received an offer. He said, well, hang up the phone. Somebody will call you in a minute. Anyway, they left. Coach Red Parker called me. He was in Atlanta and said, Billy, I don't know what's happened, but you got a full ride to Clemson if you want to come play football. I said, when can you be here?
Yeah.
And he came the next day, and I signed my scholarship.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Just tell Vince Dooley to go on about his way. We're waiting on this Clemson scholarship. That's awesome. So Billy, you were a part of some major historical moments in Clemson's football history. One was the catch, the original catch in 1977 against South Carolina, and also Coach Danny Ford's first game as a head coach in the 78 Gator Bowl. And that's also the game where, speaking of Ohio State's legendary coach Woody Hayes ended up getting, I'm pretty sure got fired the next day or something, but he punched a Clemson player on the sideline. So as you're involved in those moments, we look back at those things now as being historical. When you were there at the moment, did it hit you guys that, hey, this is something that's going to live on forever, or, that people would be talking about it 30, 40, 50 years later? Or was it just like, oh, wow, another crazy football game?
Well, the 77 catch was interesting because not many people know the true story behind that catch.
Okay.
We had dominated them the first half, and they had a big old tight end named Willie Scott. Came out second half, and if you remember, they took the lead, and we had, I think, like a minute 28 left. And Steve Fuller came in the huddle and he said, I got him right where I want him, boys. Just block for me. So anyway, Rick Weddington and Dwight Clark had big catches. We got down there, I guess, 4 or 5 yard line, and we didn't have any timeouts. And Steve would call kill at the line, and we'd dive at the defensive lineman's feet to get the hands down, and he's going to throw it out the back of the end zone and stop the clock. Well, he saw JB, Jerry Butler, and said, what the heck, I'm going to throw it up there where he can catch it. And next thing we knew, the crowd was going crazy. We thought it was a kill play. JB caught it.
Oh, wow.
The Gator
That's pretty cool.
The Gator Bowl was interesting because we were on the sidelines. If you remember, Ohio State was driving. I mean, they were going down the field.
Mm-hmm.
And we were saying, okay, if they kick a field goal, we're going to run these 5 plays. If they score, we're going to run these 5 plays. Next thing we knew, it was an interception. So we ran out on the field, and this melee broke loose on the Ohio State sidelines, and me and the guy that played next to me, Chris Dosey, took a knee by the ball where they had fired the ball. Anyway, they got everything all straightened out. And Coach Ford was raising Immortal Kane, and he was 31 years old. And the head ACC ref was the umpire in that game. He went over to Coach Ford and said, Coach, it's a minute 20 left. They don't have any timeouts. Run 3 plays and you win. He looked around and said, offense on the field. So anyway, after the game, I had the pleasure all night of going against, I don't know if you remember, Tom Kuzinoff, consensus All-American linebacker, and a guy named Steve Cato, who was all Big Ten defensive tackle. And after the game, they took Charlie Bowman, the guy Woody hit, put him in a patrol car and got him out of there. And Coach Ford said, you don't know what happened. Let's get out of here. Don't tell anybody. So they let the press in, and Bob Cole came in and said, Billy, I noticed, he was from the state paper, and he'd always done me some favors, me being from Columbia, wrote some nice articles about me. And he came up and said, Billy, I noticed during the fight you were out there kneeling by the football. I said, well, Bob, I'm graduating, so I don't care. You can print this, but those two guys have been kicking my butt all night. I wasn't about to go over there and give them any more.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It was to tell you, Woody Hayes got fired before he left the field.
Oh, okay.
The AD and the president met him. They took him out, put him in a patrol car. He was gone.
Yeah, that was not a good ending for the Ohio State folks
that
particular night.
Couldn't happen to a nicer crowd.
Well, so you played in the game at Notre Dame in was it 76?
77 when Joe Montana 2 fourth quarter touchdowns.
Yes.
And Dan Devine almost got killed.
Yeah, so as we're looking all this stuff up, speaking of that game against Notre Dame, this is the program.
Right.
The tickets were $8.
Yeah.
Hey, we got to get that same deal.
And there was no licensing fee either.
Right.
Yeah. So that's one thing that was different back then.
Whew.
But as you scroll through this thing, there's a good bit of stuff that's like rings a bell, but some that's just like crazy. But this was really cool. A couple of pages are in color, but I thought it was neat how, let's see, there's a note from the athletic director.
I'm still hung up on $8 tickets.
Well, it's $8. Here's your I guess this is a cheerleader giving the signals, description of the signals.
Yeah, you got to know what the referee's calling.
Yeah, they do that different nowadays as well. Right. But then I thought this was cool. Pixie and Bills, of course, was still around.
Absolutely.
That was awesome. The Holiday Inn. Now, see, I stopped right here, and I'm like, meeting banquet. What's it? Deluxe luncheon buffet. Who remembers the deluxe luncheon?
I do.
Kids nowadays they're missing out on the Holiday Inn deluxe luncheon buffet.
We used to go there to eat on Sundays when I was a student at Clemson.
Man, it was so good on Sunday mornings. But where's that part? Me and Billy were just looking at. There's a part in here that gives the folks phone numbers. Maybe I scrolled past it. Sunny Slope. Oh, here we go. That's the good stuff right here.
Yeah.
Touch tune televisions from Magnavox. There's one more thing we got to look at, though. Speaking of reminiscing just a little bit, at least. Where is it? We'll know when we get there. Mr. Knickerbocker. They've been around forever. That's nice.
Yeah, Monte Carlo.
77 Monte Carlo. Another thing that the kids have been missing out on the past little while. Come on, where's it at? Thought about just screenshotting this. Maybe it would have been quicker, but
well, I'm certain it would have been quicker.
Now here, this is interesting. The highest IPTAY donation is $2,000. So that's a little different nowadays. But then, oh, come on, where's the ad? I'm getting close, I promise. Now, right here's something. We should have bought us a place at the lake in 1977.
Oh, yeah.
That would have been probably worth something nowadays. Chickasaw Point. Oh, we just saw the people's phone number. Maybe it was in KFC. You can't go wrong there. Oh, come on, Bailey. Oh, here we go. The Western Sizzling.
Hey.
That was it.
Can't go wrong with that either. So,
as kids have been over there the past few years, have been missing. They just don't know what they're missing out on.
No kidding. So, Billy, what is something else that stands out when you played at Clemson, or fans may not know about? What's one of your favorite memories from playing at Clemson University?
Well, I think the game everybody forgets about was the 1978 game against Maryland at Maryland, when we won the first ACC championship in quite a while. It probably, you ought to YouTube it. There's some unbelievable highlights of that game. It's probably one of the top 5 ACC games in history. Jerry Butler caught one for about 85 yards. Dwight Clark caught one for about 60 yards. They had a running back named Atkins that we had him backed up on the 2-yard line, and he went 98 yards, and I think he broke 14 tackles.
Wow.
In other words, 2 people hit him twice.
Right. I was getting ready to say.
But that was a great football game. It was back. We were tied 7-7 right in the first half, and they blocked the punt and scored a touchdown to go up 14-7. And we came back the second half and won. That's one of my greatest memories. You know, it's hard to win a championship.
Oh yeah.
And
some people don't realize that.
Oh no, it's people getting spoiled nowadays.
That's right. We've heard that before, haven't we, Bailey?
Every Saturday.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember 2-9 in 1975, 3-6-2 in 76.
Yeah, we had a 3-8 year while we were there. So
yes, we did.
Once again, the kids don't want to hear about that. But so speaking of other athletic events and things that stand out, what did you go to other athletic events as a student? Give us a little insight to what it was like for a football player in the late 70s as a student on campus.
Totally different back then and now. We lived in Malden Hall.
Mm-hmm.
And we had Buddy King and his wife lived in the dorm to keep an eye on us. And the basketball team lived there too. Tree Rollins, Cohen Abraham, Stan Rome, all that crap. Skip Wise. And so we were very close to them. So we went to a lot of basketball games. One of our favorite things to do is go to baseball games. Bill Wilhelm.
Oh, yeah.
The legend.
The legend lives on.
My uncle's best friend.
Really?
Yes, sir.
We had a good time with him. We gave him a hard time. He gave us a hard time.
He was very deserving.
We had a guy named Billy Wingo that played both sports, played football and baseball.
They have many of them.
No. Well, we got one right now, Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Well,
by the way, you see the baseball team swept NC State?
They did.
Saw that. Broom out.
And that's a very common answer, and the same for us. We used to love going to the afternoon midweek games and going down there to the baseball field. And we've interviewed of all the folks we've interviewed, almost every one of them has said something about going to baseball games and sitting on that third base line, and that's right at the visiting dugout, giving the other team a hard time. So that's pretty cool. That's obvious why baseball is such a big deal at Clemson, because people have loved it so much. Not mention the program has been pretty good throughout those years as well. So what do you think, Bailey?
Well, I was a manager on the baseball team my freshman year.
Yeah.
And Coach Wilhelm is one of a kind, and he was my uncle who lives did live. He passed away a year or so ago. About 500 yards from me. Him and Wilhelm were buddies, and he was a former GA at Clemson with Wilhelm back in the 60s. My aunt and uncle lived in the dorms, and they were big buddies. So Wilhelm was something else.
That's Chris Carter told us a Wilhelm story, didn't he?
Yeah.
Was that
sure
him?
Did.
Yeah, that was a good one. So speaking of how Billy, do you get back to Clemson living down in Mount Pilot? How often do you get back up to go to the games now or anything?
Mount Pilot's in Clover.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mount Pilot's where Opie and Andy
Pilot
grew up.
There's my inner Mayberry coming out in me. Sorry.
There you go.
Sorry. Mount Pleasant. My apologies.
Yeah, I get back once or twice a year for home football games. I like to go to away games. One of our favorite things to do is go to Boston College for the Boston College game. That's such a great city. But yeah, I love going back, not as much for the games, but to see my old buddies Joe Bostic and Steve Kenny and Jeff Bostic and that's and even Nikki, I'll throw Nikki in there. It's just fun catching up with all the guys.
Right. Now, when you travel to the away games, do you hook up with like the Alumni Association, or you just kind of go on your own?
I just kind of go on my own. What I found in the past is you get better tickets buying them from wherever you're going than you do through IBTAY.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I learned the Alumni Association always does some kind of thing, whether it's a tailgate party thing or some whatever. I don't know if that has anything to do with buying a ticket, who you get your ticket from, but I know that the guy, Bubba Britton, friend of mine with the Alumni Association, says that they sell out. And I know we went to Pittsburgh one time and they were doing a pregame tailgate deal out on the river, and that sounded pretty cool. And we missed out because we waited and didn't get a ticket. But I'd love to go to a game in Boston. I've only been to Boston once, and it was for a wedding. I'd definitely much rather go up there for a Clemson football game. That sounds like fun. But speaking of getting back to Clemson, we're helping former Tiger basketball player Wayne Buckingham promote a fundraising event in August. So I don't know if you get those invitations from Buck and folks that you played with, but you've got an official invitation from us, and I'll definitely email you that information in case you want to get back there, and feel free and spread that. Is there any organization or group that you're a part of now, a church or anything that you'd like to talk about real quick here on the podcast?
Well, one that's near and dear to my heart is FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes. I was involved with getting the chapter going here, and it's thriving. I'm a member of Seacoast Church here. But no, FCA is a great organization to help these young kids try to, it's tough now being a teenager.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I was telling you before we start, Bailey and I are both high school administrators, and there's a strong FCA program at my school. My athletic director actually is the former upstate FCA director. So, and I remember being involved in their events and stuff when I was a coach. They didn't have that when I don't know if they even had it when I was a player, but it's definitely been a good thing for coaches and coaches' wives. As a coach, they put on events for us as a couple, and because there's when you're coaching, you're putting all that time in. Bailey knows you don't see your family very often, and FCA made it a point to have things, about marriage and husband and wife, and made it a point for have times to get together. So that's awesome. We'll promote that when we post the event or post this show on social media, and definitely a big fan of FCA for sure. So we appreciate you bringing that up.
Good organization.
Yep. Well, Billy, like I said, we do appreciate you being on. We appreciate your time. We appreciate you saying yes to Clemson back in the 70s. And everybody talks about what CJ and Taj did to kind of kick off, what Dabo and those folks are doing now. But, you were on that team when Danny Ford got the first nod to be the head coach, and that kind of started laying the foundation for, the first national championship back in 81. So we appreciate what you and all your peers did back then. And we would love to meet any of them.
That's right.
Hear those names. That's the names I grew up hearing when I was a kid. So get really excited about that.
Get you hooked up with a bunch of them.
All right. Well, I'm glad I have your email. So maybe we can get some more on here, but we do appreciate you being on here, and just holler if you ever need something from the Fun Fans.
All right. Well, I appreciate your time, and thank you for having me. And Bailey, I'm sorry you have to live in Clover.
Hey, well, it's the town with love in the middle.
The city with love in the middle. That's right. No, thank you, sir. Go Tigers.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you, guys.
Yes, sir.
Hey, that was pretty cool.
That was awesome.
I'm telling you, man. And I went through those programs. I probably spent 2 hours looking at those programs and stuff. I didn't do a good job putting it on here and scrolling through some of the stuff, but there was one of them, and it had to be the Gator Bowl. There's a little paragraph with Danny Ford's office phone number, and he's in his office during this time. Had two different and here's his number if you ever want to just call him. Yeah. So that was crazy.
Well, things are so much different now. You know, to get through Fort Knox to get to Dabo's office is something else.
I know that's right. But we'll one more promo about Buck's fundraiser. You guys listen out there. You want to rub some elbows with dozens and dozens of former Clemson. LaVon Kirkland is the guest speaker. Michael Dean Perry's going to be there. We never say the same names when we list the 2 or 3 names of folks that are going to be there. That first weekend in August, the website will be posted when we post. It's all over my social media, or you can search WAB Sports and find it with Wayne Buckingham. But if you have any questions or anything, you want to participate or be a sponsor or just be a guest, you can do that. And the big $10,000 give, the donation is for a scholarship fund, and it's to help former Tiger athletes that are in need. For $10,000, you can spend your weekend with Horace Grant. We won't go into detail about that, but basically there's golf, there's a gala, there's a tailgate, and you and your party of 9 can spend the weekend with Horace Grant, NBA superstar, former Clemson superstar. For $7,000, you and your group can spend the weekend with multiple members of the 1981 championship team. So all that information is on our website. It'll be posted with this show, and it's on Wayne's WAB alumni Orange and White fundraiser. So, all right.
Well, you know, the funny thing is he kept mentioning Jerry Butler. Well, I coached for 3 or 4 years with Richard Butler, who is Jerry's brother, at Fort Mill High School, and Richard's a mess. But you know, he played at Clemson on the tail end of that. You know, right at the end of the 70s, early 80s, and I think Richard missed the national championship by like a year. So
just
he was
a smidge.
Like, yep. But good
that's
stuff.
Wild. Yeah, that's awesome. All right,
he already mentioned the baseball team swept NC State.
Now, okay, so it's been a couple weeks. Yeah, it's been a couple weeks since we talked about it, and I what does that mean? You know, the baseball team was quote unquote struggling. They're rebuilding. I'm not going to read. We don't read much into when they would lose a series. We're not going to read too much into them winning, but they're winning. So are they going to qualify for the tournament?
Yes,
the ACC tournament.
I mean, they still have 2 weeks to go. There's a lot of ACC games left, but if it ended today, I think they'd be in. They're now 9-9, and they were 3-9 2 weekends ago.
Well, the commentators on the game today were definitely saying they are the hot team in the ACC for sure. So it's a good time.
And I don't know exactly what their RPI numbers is, but it's like through the roof. The strength of schedule and that kind of thing. So, you know, look, it's all about getting hot at the right time.
Getting hot at the right time. That. Very good. All right.
Can I mention basketball real quick?
Oh yeah, basketball was let's hear it.
So Clemson, if you don't know, Ben Middlebrooks, who was a contributor for Clemson basketball this year, he went into the transfer portal and he committed and signed with NC State. Okay, here you go, Ben. But one of NC State's better wing players, a 6'8" shooter, and I'm sorry I don't have his name. I've been busy all day. I hadn't had to get this information. He, the same day, signed with Clemson. So we're trading players now.
Trading players. I mean,
right.
Okay. What else?
I mean, we had a kid from NC State that averaged 10 points a game last year. So let's get it.
Let's get it. I mean, we've had our show about the transfer portal, and now we just sit back and kind of see what happens.
I mean, what have you done for me lately?
Yeah, we can talk about it, but now we're actually seeing how it works, and it's so far it's just like it's kind of like whatever.
It's crazy.
All right. So baseball, basketball, that leaves softball. They swept Pitt this weekend. A little sweepy.
This is a broom.
Yeah, if you listen on the audio version,
we're doing a broom sweeping.
Broom. So yeah, a lot of sweeping this weekend. That was awesome. They played really well. And
speaking of, when I was at Clover, in school and we played broom, every sign that the football team ran through said "Sweet Broom."
Sweet broom. I mean, that's extremely creative.
Yeah. So, and every other school broom played.
Yeah, I know. So, all right. So, what is the softball looking at? How close are they to the tournament? And they've got to be. It's either got to be them or Florida State. When's the regular season? Do they crown a regular season champion? Do you know?
Yes,
Softball.
I think so. Hold, please.
So, okay. So we're going to assume while Bailey researches, he was busy this weekend. How many rounds of golf did you get in?
Well, I played in the member golf tournament, and we were in first place after yesterday, and we did not perform well today. So, I got most of my money back.
There you go. That's good.
Clemson softball has one ACC series left.
That's what I was thinking.
At Virginia Tech. So 1st of May, getting ready for the tournament. But they are 44-5, 17-4 in ACC.
Yeah, so that's got to, unless Florida State, I don't know. I have to look at the standings, but it's got to be between them and Florida. It's going to come down to these last 3 games probably for a regular season, and I assume they do seeding and whatever. But what do you know where the women's softball ACC tournament is?
Yeah, I thought we already talked about this one time.
No, well, I think that was the national championship college softball World Series. We found where that was.
Yes, hold please.
But I think the ACC softball, I think it's in Is it in Greensboro?
It's in Greensboro, yeah.
Yeah.
May 10th through the 13th. I'm sorry. It's in South Bend, Indiana. You know what? You can get a ticket book for the full tournament, for the whole tournament, for $15.
Wow. So does that mean Notre Dame's hosting?
Man. Yes.
You sure you're not looking at something from 1977?
It says May 10th through 13th at Melissa Cook Stadium in South Bend, Indiana.
Well, that's interesting. Well, either way, they swept Pitt this weekend, and we are hoping for an extremely successful postseason for the Lady Tiger softball team. But you know who never loses?
J-Do,
MC, entrepreneur, entertainer, pep rallies, corporate events, game shows, fundraisers, galas, etc. Just put that man on the mic and let him liven up the party. Not only is J-Do a friend of mine, I've seen him work, and you and your organization will not be disappointed anytime you add J-Do to your function. You can find him at itsjdo.com and on all forms of social media at itsjdo. So we've been talking a lot about galas. We've been to some galas, but the next big event, Bailey, is the NFL draft. Coming up in the world of sports, the NFL draft. Are there any Clemson, things to keep? I know we got some players in there, but anything really big, top 10, top anything?
You know what? I don't really get into all that.
But
I'm living here 20 minutes from Charlotte, so I'm curious who the Panthers are going to select.
Right.
But you know what? I like listening to Mel Kiper. He knows everything about every player, and he's got this hair that like goes up. It's just like for somebody who's follically challenged like myself, Mel Kiper's hair is just it's fascinating.
He's doing a great job.
Yes.
Well, we look forward to seeing lots of Tigers drafted, as many as possible, and wish them the best of luck. But you know what we look forward to even more?
Next week.
I need to get some music going again for
the
this.
The first ever Fun Fans Podcast tailgate menu draft. We're picking our favorite menu items for our tailgates.
And who gets these picks?
Our children.
With the first pick coming next week in the Fun Fans tailgate.
Boom.
Menu draft.
Look at that guy. Who's that guy?
Whit Jackson. Whit is on the clock. Okay. So we're going to see what Whit's going to pick. The number 2 pick in the Fun Fan Tailgate menu draft, that would be one Grayson Dillard.
I know her too.
Yeah. She's the second pick thing covered up a beta club thing, so maybe she's a little smart.
Right.
Maybe. But she looks ready. She looks like she's ready to make her menu pick. Now we jump a little bit in age from the second pick to the third pick, so there might be a little bit of a gap, a gap there.
Right.
We go all the way to a college student.
Boom. What is
Jackson.
that face?
That is not a cheer face.
No.
She's serious. She is
Where
serious
did you
about
get
this
that
menu.
Picture?
Kyle, and your wife sent it to me. I have no idea. So, all right, and now we got a couple of grown, technically they're grown folks picking next week in the draft.
They're
and with
still
the
our children.
The fourth pick, Jalen Dillard.
Boom, I know her.
she's going to be ready. And then with the fifth and final pick in the tailgate menu draft.
Boom.
You talking about she's serious now. She is serious about getting it done. So that's going to be exciting next week to hear about, what they want to put in the tailgate. So
it's
time
be awesome. For our weekly giveaway, James.
Well, yeah. Is it time? Okay, awesome. Time for a weekly
giveaway.
Isn't it? Sure, go ahead.
And it's brought to you by Diamond Edge Products. These guys have mastered a diamond laser engraving process, and they could put almost any design on items such as license plates, yard signs, tumblers, water bottles, and even more for a high-quality, forever-lasting custom-engraved product. Check out Diamond Edge Products at diamondedgeproducts.com. For questions, inquiries, or orders, email Jaylin, Jaylin, at diamondedgeproducts.com, or you can get it from the Fun Fans merchandise store. And there's Jaylin again.
Yeah, there's the Jaylin. Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so this week's winner of the Fun Fan Tumbler goes to...
Drum roll, please.
Oh, yeah, where's my drum roll? I got a drum roll. So I got to do better. I got a new drum roll. This week's tumbler goes to Red Martin.
Red Martin. Congrats, Red. And thank you for supporting us.
Yes. And see, Red was introduced to us by the hat. And since then, he's been a good supporter sharing the show. So, Red, we appreciate that. I'll be reaching out to you for your address and sending you your tumbler. So how can you win your tumbler or koozie? Next week it'll be a koozie. All you do is share any of our shows on social media, and your name will be entered into the drawing. So reach out to us about participating in Bucks fundraiser. You want to be a sponsor. There are sponsorship levels as low as $150. There are entries to hang out with all these big time Tiger folks for as cheap as $50. But then there are sponsorship levels all the way up in the hundreds and thousands if you want to help this good cause. But you can reach out to us to do that. We will put
they can hang out with us.
To get to hang out with us. We'll be there. We'll be there all weekend. So we did a little throwback with Billy. We talked baseball. We talked softball. Oh, wait a minute.
You have a huge announcement, James. Huge announcement.
It's time. Wait a minute. I about need to do the drum roll again with this huge announcement. Oh, is that the one with the
Does it ever stop?
No, that's the one that don't stop. Okay, so here we go. All right. We, the Fun Fans, are going to be on TV. We have our own TV channel. We have partnered now with WSBN TV, World Sports Broadcasting Network, channel 24. Okay. So how do you watch? The thing about watching is you need to put the Boxcast app on your smart TV, just like you have the Disney Plus app, the ESPN app. So it's a free download, the Boxcast app for your smart TV, and you will have access to all of WSBN, the World Sports Broadcasting Network television channels, or you can go to their website that I have on the screen now, and they have tons of channels and tons of sports. There's also other tons of free stuff on that Boxcast app. So that's pretty cool anyway. So we
didn't have to, they asked us to be on there, right?
Like, no, not really.
Well, I mean, it's, thank you very much. We kind of reached out to them, but they had contacted us initially, and then it just kind of happened, right?
Yeah, being part of the Fanboys kind of looped us in with them, and they're open for additional content. And all I had to do was email them and send in the information. So it's kind of a partnership as far as whoever reached out to who, but we're excited about that. And that way we can be on TV, like a TV channel, through a streaming app and another streaming service. That those folks literally reach millions of people through all their various channels and sports.
Well, that'd be a great
media
place
that they
to
do.
get someone to advertise on our program.
Yeah. So if you're looking to advertise, just let us know and we can hook you up, and we will be putting your business in front of lots of viewers. So thanks again for checking us out each and every week. Don't forget to click subscribe on your favorite platform, especially YouTube. Find us at Fun Fans Podcast. We're going to continue to bring you stories of cool stories and fun fans, plenty of great shows posting each and every week. We got some great interviews lined up, so you do not want to miss. We've teased the Fun Fans version of the draft.
Can't wait.
Definitely do not want to miss that. But on behalf of the Fun Fans Podcast, Jay Thriller Entertainment, the Fanboys Fangirls Podcast Network, and Bailey Jackson.
Hey, people, thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, share, and thank you, Billy Hudson, for being on the show tonight.
That's right. Thanks for listening, and go Tigers.
Go Tigers.